Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister, the Red Woman, Beric Dondarrion, Thoros of Myr, Ilyn Payne, the Mountain, the Hound.
Most people hear that list, and they hear what Arya wants them to hear. A hit list, a child's revenge fantasy, a cold record of who's going to die when she's old enough to make it happen. Some say it's a coping mechanism. Some say it's the moment Arya's heart hardens past saving. Some say it's the show telling you exactly what kind of weapon she's about to become. They're all reading it wrong, because if you actually look at how Arya recites the list, every night, in the dark, before she sleeps, in the same order, like she's afraid of forgetting, that isn't a hit list. That's a prayer. And someone in this story already lived through this exact ritual. He took an axe to a man's skull because of it. Then he tried to warn Arya before she did the same. Season 2, Episode 3, On a Road in the Riverlands, an old Night's Watch recruiter named Yoren told Arya the story of his whole life in 5 minutes. And the whole tragedy of Arya Stark is that she heard the wrong half of it. Let me take you through it from the beginning, because once you see what the list actually was, you can't unsee it. The religion of names. Before any of the evidence, you need to understand what saying names out loud actually meant in the world Arya was raised in. Westeros has a specific relationship with names and death, and Arya is about to be initiated into it without realizing. The faceless men of Brathos worship the many-faced god, the god of death. Their doctrine is that every religion in the world is just a different mask on the same face. The drowned god of the Iron Islands, the Lord of Light, and importantly, the stranger of the faith of the Seven, the seventh aspect of the Seven, the one nobody prays to, the one whose statues in sets are turned to face the wall because his face is too terrible to look at. The stranger represents death and the unknown. In the books, George R.R. Martin writes the recitation of Arya's list with what readers have noted is an almost incantatory rhythm. The names flow in the same order, night after night, never changing. It reads less like a child's grudge and more like a child's catechism. And here is the part that makes it eerie. The Hound, Sandor Clegane, the man who knocks Arya out at the Red Wedding and travels with her for 2 seasons, names his warhorse Stranger. After the death god of the faith of the Seven, the man who will eventually save Arya from her own list is riding the symbol of the god she is praying to every night before she has any idea what she's doing. So when Yoren sits down with Arya on a road and tells her how to survive what just happened to her family, he isn't sharing a coping mechanism. He's teaching her a religion. Yoren, the origin of the ritual. Season 2, Episode 3, What is Dead May Never Die. Arya is travelling north with Yoren, disguised as a boy named Ari, freshly traumatized by her father's execution. Yoren decides to tell her a story about himself.
It got to the point where I would say his name every night before I went to bed. Willem, Willem, Willem. A prayer, almost.
When Yoren was barely older than Arya, a man named Willem stabbed his brother to death right on their doorstep. Willem ran, and Yoren spent the next years of his life saying that name every night before he slept, like a chant. Willem, Willem, Willem. He uses the word prayer out loud in the scene. He doesn't dress it up. He tells Arya plainly that he turned a man's name into something he prayed. Then Willem rode back into town, and Yoren took an axe and buried it so deep into Willem's skull that they had to bury Willem with the axe still inside him. Then Yoren stole the dead man's horse, rode to the wall, and joined the Night's Watch. Not to serve, but to escape what he had done. He's not telling Arya this story as a how-to guide. He's telling her how revenge ate his life and turned him into something he didn't want to be. Don't end up like me. That's the message. But Arya is 12. She has just lost her father, and her family is being destroyed in slow motion. So she hears the story, and she takes the part of it she can use, and ignores the part of it that hurts. She takes the ritual. That same night, in the dark, Arya begins reciting names. The names go in the same order every time. Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey. By season 4, the list has become a near-religious text. She is doing exactly what Yoren did. She has been initiated by an old man telling her his worst memory into the religion that took his soul. Yoren did not mean to teach her this. He meant the opposite. But Arya kept the half of the lesson that kept her alive, and discarded the half that would have set her free. The Red Wedding, why the ritual became essential. In Season 3, Episode 9, The Reigns of Castamere, Arya nearly walks into the twins as her brother and her mother and the Stark army are slaughtered inside. She hears the song through the walls. The hound knocks her out and carries her away, and by the time she comes to, the killing is mostly done, and the Freys are parading what's left of her brother through the camp with the head of his direwolf sewn onto his shoulders. She is 14 years old. A child cannot process that. The mind doesn't have the capacity for that much loss in one night. On top of the father she watched die 2 seasons earlier. Something has to hold her together. And what holds her together is the ritual she has been practicing since Yoren told her about Willem. She adds Walder Frey to the list. She adds Roose Bolton. She keeps reciting. This is what Yoren's warning was actually about, and this is what people miss when they read the list as a hit list. It isn't aimed at the people on it, it's aimed at the girl saying it. Every name is a piece of the family she lost. Every recitation is her saying, "I have not forgotten, and I am still here." The list is the only thing in the world that proves Arya Stark hasn't been erased, along with the rest of the Starks. The Hound, the name on the list walking beside her. Then comes the part that breaks every revenge story Arya has ever heard. She ends up travelling with a man on her own list. Sandor Clegane is a Lannister sword. He killed a butcher's boy named Micah on Joffrey's orders in Season 1. Arya watched it happen, and as a result he is on the list from the very beginning. He should be one of the first names she crosses off. Instead, they spend 2 seasons on the road together. He teaches her how to fight, and he keeps her alive when she has nothing. He hates everyone except, slowly, this strange, feral child who reminds him of something he might once have been. This is also when the list starts to do work in Arya's hands instead of just sitting in her head. Polliver, a Lannister soldier who tortured prisoners at Harrenhal and stole Needle from her, is on the list. He sits down at the same inn she does, and the Hound watches her ask his name. Then he watches her stab Polliver in the throat. Watch the lesson the Hound is actually teaching across these 2 seasons. He's not teaching her to forgive. He's teaching her to look at the people on her list and see people instead of monsters. Joffrey was a child. Cersei is a mother. The Mountain is the Hound's brother. The list isn't a register of evils. It is a register of human beings who hurt her. And naming them out loud is keeping her tethered to the part of herself that can still feel they were human. By the time Brienne defeats the Hound on a hillside in Season 4, Episode 10, and Arya leaves him for dead, she has quietly removed his name from the list. She doesn't say so, she just stops saying his name in the dark. That is the first warning sign that the list is starting to ease its grip. The House of Black and White, the ritual under attack. Then she goes to Braavos, and the list meets the only force in the world built specifically to destroy it. The House of Black and White is the temple of the faceless men, walls covered in actual peeled human faces preserved as masks, a pool that kills you if you drink from it, and one rule: to learn what they teach, you have to give up everything you are, your family, your past, your name. Every night, in the temple where she is being trained to become no one, Arya goes to bed and recites the names: Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, the Mountain. The list, which Yoren accidentally taught her, is now the exact thing standing between her and total identity erasure. It's the one thing the faceless men cannot reach. And then there's Needle. Needle is the sword Jon gave her in Season 1, Episode 2. The first real gift she ever received from the brother she loved most, the sword she named. The sword she has carried through every horror she experienced. In Season 5, Episode 3, after Jaqen orders her to throw her things into the canal, Arya stands at the water's edge with Needle in her hand. But she can't put Needle in the water. So she walks back across the bridge, finds a pile of rocks just outside the temple, and hides Needle there. She lies to the faceless men and hides who she is in plain sight. Needle and the list are doing the same job, as they are physical and verbal proof that Arya Stark exists, even when an entire religious order is trying to convince her she doesn't. The bells. The pivot. By the time we get to Season 8, Arya has done everything the list demanded of her. She killed Walder Frey by serving him a pie made of his own sons and slitting his throat at his table. She crossed Meryn Trant off in a brothel in Braavos. She crossed every Frey male off the list in a single sitting wearing a mask. She has done this, and she is good at it. So in Season 8, Episode 5, when King's Landing starts to burn, she goes after Cersei. The bells of surrender ring, but Daenerys ignores them and starts incinerating civilians. The streets fill with ash and screaming. Arya pushes through the dying city toward the Red Keep, with one of the last names on her list waiting at the end of it. She has earned this moment, with the list driving her toward this exact scene for 7 years. And then the Hound stops her.
You think you wanted revenge a long time? I've been after it all my life. It's all I care about. And look at me. Look at me!
Look at what the Hound is actually doing in that moment. He has come to King's Landing for the same reason, to kill his brother, to finish his own list. He has lived inside that fire his entire adult life. And he turns to the girl he has watched grow up, the girl whose list he was once on, and he tells her the exact thing Yoren tried to tell her on a road in the Riverlands when she was 12. It's a different sentence. It's the same warning. Don't become me. This is the moment people miss. The Hound is Yoren. He is the man whose entire life got eaten by a name he said in the dark. He is what happens when you ride the ritual all the way to the end. And he is standing in a burning city, in front of the only person in the world he loves, telling her to walk away. She walks away. She turns around and leaves Cersei to die without her, buried by the same building Cersei spent her life ruling. The list does not get its final name. And that is the moment Arya breaks the spell. What the list was. So when you wonder why Arya's list was so relentless, so exact, so unforgiving, remember this. It wasn't hate that kept her saying those names every night. It was a child's refusal to forget the people she loved, and her refusal to forget herself. The list was the lifeline that pulled her through the Red Wedding, and through Bravos, and through every house that tried to make her into someone else. And it was also the thing that almost ate her, exactly the way Yoren said it would. Almost. Because she is the only person in the entire run of Game of Thrones who heard the warning twice. Once from a recruiter on a road, once from a dying man in a burning city, and chose to set the names down. She goes west into uncharted waters at the end of the series with needles still on her belt, and the list finally silent. Her family's names are no longer the only things she has. They are something she remembers, instead of something she carries. The North remembers. Arya Stark, in the end, was allowed to. Now you cannot watch any list scene the same way again. The next time you see Arya whispering names in the dark, you're not going to see a kill list. You're going to see a girl saying the rosary of her dead family, holding her own name together with their names. And you're going to know exactly what it cost her, and exactly what it saved. Drop a comment with the name on Arya's list you think hurt her the most to keep saying every night. Was it Joffrey, the boy who killed her father? The Mountain, the man who terrorized her at Harrenhal? Or was it the Hound, the one she eventually had to take off the list to save herself? And if you want more of this, the threads the show buried under the surface, the meanings hiding inside scenes you've watched a dozen times, subscribe. There are more of these running through every season, and most of them have never been pulled all the way through.